Welcome back. Today, with the help of T-Bing, and yes, we are working together as opposed to her simply sending me an article to cover, we will be addressing a video by Dylan Marron of Seriously TV. So take it away, Dylan.
If you can look the other way when our country bombs Syria, then you use this product already. Today, I'm unboxing privilege.
Well, fartface, what about when you and your kind look away from Muslims throwing gays off of rooftops? Oh, right, you never have anything to say. And it's not about having privilege when you choose to redirect your attention from a disaster unrelated to your personal life. By that logic, a starving child in Africa who doesn't focus their sights on bombings is also privileged.
I don't quite understand how it is a privilege to pay attention or, as you mentioned, divert attention to something else, rather than pay sole attention to a bombing in Syria. I have far more pressing concerns in my own country to be getting on with. And yes, while it is tragic what has happened there, it is not a privilege to not pay attention to it.
Hey friends, I'm Dylan Marron, and I am back to unbox the sickest intangible ideologies. So today, I got my hands on the product so all-encompassing that it has generated a whole line of amazing spin-off items.
Let's not get confused with facts and opinions. It is your opinion that these are sickest intangible ideologies, not fact.
I agree. Much like I would agree that privilege does in fact exist. However, it is always used against people that are predominantly white in what are white majority countries, because those pesky little minorities need points or something.
Check out white privilege if you want to go shopping without a security guard following you around.
Look at that. I was right. Those pesky minorities need their points. I would argue that that doesn't entirely hold true in my country. You see, we have strict rules in shopping centres and when you go shopping. And also, we have a lot of chavs here. They will literally stick things down their underpants if it means they can steal it. So it doesn't entirely hold true as white privilege in my country, but of course it will be spun that way.
One of the most consistent things that concerns me about this argument is the lack of acknowledgement about presentation. For instance, black or white, if you step into a store dressed like this, you might get followed. If you dress like this, you'll probably be ignored.
In a lot of UK shopping centres, the hoodie is banned, well, having the hood up, as is wearing caps. I wonder if we'll ever get to the point where we have to get hipsters to tie their beards up so that we don't have to have security fiddle with their beards to make sure they haven't stolen anything, ironically.
And dig into straight privilege if you want to hold your partner's hand in public without being called a faggot.
Bigotry will always exist. People will always judge you for whatever differences you have.
Yes, but it has to be labelled something that indicates one is better than another based on some minor difference that is fairly insignificant, like race.
Have you noticed the judgment coming from what were minorities against people who were a part of the majority? Black people on white, gays hating on straights, trans against cis people.
Want to have Republican lawmakers not give a shit where you take a shit? Then you gotta dig into cis privilege.
You know, on the subject of giving a shit where you take a shit, someone did try and prank me with an article that said that Portland was trying to legitimize giving the furries permission to take a dump in dog parks. For obvious reasons, I didn't believe it. Then I was told it was Portland, and I started to question it until I bothered to do some digging.
If you took the time to see why some people are against taking a shit, you'd realize many of them are against it because of posers. People who will take advantage of the trans community and use transgenderism as an excuse in disguise to get away with predatory behavior. I fully acknowledge the existence of people who discriminate trans people for being trans, but don't mix those very different things to push a narrative.
As we both know, T, the listen and believe mentality applies. So even if someone looks, even for a second, like they're just a bloke, trying to pass off as a woman and saying they're trans to use the toilet because they desperately need a dump, someone from this SJW community will just believe it because they said it, so it must be true.
And if you want to firmly advocate for yourself and not be called a bitch, then male privilege is the box for you.
It fascinates me that you people refuse or lack the brain capacity to recognize the discrimination here. You literally have to remake a definition so you can exclude yourself from any self-reflection.
But right now, let's dig into the product that gets presidents elected.
It wasn't privilege that got the tangerine dream elected. It wasn't white privilege, it wasn't male privilege. It wasn't cis privilege, it wasn't any privilege you can imagine. It was the constant nonsense pushed by politicians. It was the lies, the deceit pushed by all people, and the alienation of the core voters, who happened to be white and yet were being ostracized by dickheads like you. Of course, all of this can be summarized. T?
I can summarize that for you. They didn't want a criminal.
First up, it's a can of Pepsi. Did you know this product makes you think it's a good idea to make a commercial that co-opts resistance movements?
Wow, a franchise used a trend to help promote their product? How deplorable. I've never seen such a thing.
Racism cured.
Well, if Pepsi's not up to the task of curing that pesky racism, I guess we're going to have to rely on Dr. Pepper.
I can't say I want to punch you, because that would technically be a threat. So I'll just say, I don't not want to punch you in your oddly obnoxious face.
Now, T, we don't want to sink to the level of the brain trust who think it's okay to punch someone after labeling them a Nazi. We're better than them. All of them. Because they're disingenuous, unintelligent fucks who actually would resort to violence to get their own way.
Helpful. It's a tissue box. Now, privilege can cause severe allergic reactions, so it's sweet that they've got you covered. Now, symptoms can include refusing to listen, sticking your head in the sand, and violent defensiveness because you can't handle the nuance of this product. For example, I can get on my SJW high horse when identifying privileges I don't have, but the minute I bring up privileges I do have, like able-bodied privilege... Anyway, let's just move on.
You're clearly trying to redefine disagreement of ideologies or opinions as refusal to listen. It's so important for you to be right that you just strawman and accuse people of willful ignorance rather than question your own views.
I love that much like labeling or the need to label every aspect of one's being, you have to label every aspect of one's being as a form of privilege. And just because someone has the ability to do something that another doesn't mean that the person who can do something is better than someone else. Doesn't mean they're better, so it must be negative and they must be put down or the other person must be elevated above them. Using privilege to suit one's game, you do realize actual absolute equality is impossible, right?
Let's just move on.
Yes, let's move on.
It is top security clearance to the White House just because you're the president's daughter. Okay.
While I'm not huge on the idea of giving a job to members of family, because I believe it denies other people who may be better qualified to take up that position, this is hardly something new, and is somewhat petty. What do you think, T?
This might literally be the pettiest channel on YouTube. You mean to tell me no other president in the history of presidency has ever given their family special treatment? Fascinating.
Yum! It's a silver spoon. Stick it in your mouth and see how far you get.
He's gonna stick it in his mouth, I guarantee. Oh, and look at that. Called it. How did I know?
He'd have been better off sticking that spoon up his bottom.
I just got to run a company with little to no applicable experience.
Oh, please. You can't compare being President of the United States with a corporation. They are not the same thing. They do not run the same way. Your politics are vastly more complicated than a business, which for the most part runs under the pretense of the most qualified person gets the top job because the person at the top will do the best and work the hardest to get the better results. No leg-ups needed. The best person wins. Whereas with presidential campaigns, it is essentially a popularity contest. Always has been, always will be. If it isn't, can you please explain to me how Obama got 2 terms?
Speaking of which... it's Trump. With an early $1 million loan from his dad to grow a real estate business he already stood to inherit decades before winning a presidential election, you could say he's the spokesperson for this product.
You mean humanity isn't perfect and there are corrupt people? I won't sit here and pretend to disagree that some privilege exists, especially financial privilege. My issue with your take, however, is rather than accepting that some people have it better, you act like a bitter, spoiled brat for not getting everything you want.
I would go so far as to say that Trump's dad epitomizes what every parent does. They want what's best for their children, so they give them everything they could have. He gave his son $1 million loan, because he could. And if any of us could in our real lives, we would do it too. And it is well established that Donald Trump did in fact win the presidential election because he was able to get enough electoral college votes to win. The idea is to appeal to the wider country, not to the highest densely populated areas of the country.
Well, there is one last thing in here, and it is a master key, so that you can open doors that won't open for other people. And they'll open so easily that you'll forget they were even locked in the first place. If anyone suggests they were, you'll dismiss them by telling them that they're focusing too much on identity politics.
Instead of questioning yourself, you point the finger and make accusations. Once success, don't cry about other people and their advantages. Do yourself a favor and press on. Linger too long on why some people have it better, and as a result, miss opportunities to improve your own life.
This is one of those weird times where I have to say man up to somebody. Because if people are going to constantly moan that others have it better than them, they're not looking to try and improve their lives for themselves. They are looking to blame someone and seek an easy way out. Hard work is all that pays off. And yes, we all go through moments or points in our lives where we do think we reflect upon where we should be and start to think that maybe we want to be better. But the only way we're going to get there is by working hard and not getting leg ups, taking the easy way out. Having schemes that are in place that we can take advantage of to put us on par with other people that have earned their position.
Well, that is it for me, friends. Remember, this product doesn't have to be so controversial. Just acknowledging you own it takes less energy than furiously denying it exists.
AKA, agree with me rather than putting in effort of having your own opinions. I'd rather fight to the death for my beliefs than blindly agree with you because it's fast and easy.
Agreed. Big thank you to T-Bing for joining me on this, quotes, adventure, and thank you all for listening.